All right, we'll get it started with Thomas Harding. Thomas, go ahead.
Good afternoon, buddy. How are you today?
I'm well, Thomas. Good to hear your voice.
All right. Hey, just wanted to check in first. CJ Crone, how close is he to being ready to get back?
Really close. Really close. We thought about activating him today, but we felt as though we needed to keep some reinforcements in the bullpen based on what's happened the last couple of days. So he could return as early as tomorrow.
And how about Charlie? How is he today?
Charlie's doing better. It was sort of a game time decision on whether to start Chuck tonight. We decided to make sure that he put in a full day of practice today to test the groin, which he's going to do here shortly on the field during batting practice with some outfield work. He'll run the bases, he'll hit on the field, and we'll assess Charlie. But like I said, he's been able to take some pinch at bats, but we're going to make sure after a good workout today that he's cleared to continue playing on a regular basis as a starter, maybe as early as tomorrow.
Okay. Just a couple more from me. The bullpen and its struggles, and you talked about the pitching principles yesterday that
right
necessarily being met. I mean, is that it, or is there anything different you can do with the group? I know they were used a lot during the weekend. Some of it was, not getting outs, but. Yeah,
there was, again, the frequency was up a little bit, and that was based on maybe the guy in front of them who had a tough outing. But, this week it was tough, right? I mean, we were punched in the face a little bit by the Padres and the Reds. And a lot of it is, some fundamental pitching, right? The leadoff walks came back to haunt us, getting ahead in the count, not putting guys away and walking guys, but not fielding our position, not holding runners, some principle stuff that we let get away from us this week that, that we've addressed through the week and even this afternoon. So, hopefully we'll see better results moving forward, but it was a tough week for the bullpen for sure.
Last one for me.
No bounce back.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. Last one for me. Connor Joe very quickly with that on base ability has worked his way to the second in your lineup these days. What have you seen from his approach that led you to say, hey, this guy hasn't been here long, but he knows what he's doing in the box and can get on base?
Well, I think that, what he showed, in a very short period of time with, in St. Louis, some quality at-bats that resulted in some walks. He got his, first hit since his very first one with the Giants. But it was a continuation of what we saw in spring training. A guy that swinging at strikes, taking balls, pretty simple as that. And the walk component combined with the hit tool, he gets on base, and you want guys who get on base in the top of your lineup. So guys like, Trevor and Mac and Chuck and, eventually, who knows, Crone could knock them in. So we'll see, as we continue on, but, the first, 30 at bats, the first, 35, 36 plate appearances for Connor have been great.
Thanks, buddy.
Yep.
Patrick Saunders, go ahead.
Hi, buddy. If I can ask one more about the bullpen.
Sure.
You mentioned to Thomas, you sounded pretty definitive. You said they'll bounce back. Can you expand on that a little bit more? Why do you say that?
Well, again, I think there's been enough success from a number of these fellows that I think it's gonna happen again. And if not, I'd be surprised. Now, I think there's quality stuff. I think there's velocity. I think there's secondary pitches. I just think some of the principles have left those guys in a number of their outings, right? There's been some inconsistency in each one of those guys over the course of this first 40 plus games. And we've talked about a lot, through these Zooms and through our conversations about our team is the need for consistent performance from our bullpen members, not If we have 9 guys out there, we can't have 4 guys pitching good and 5 guys pitching bad. We need 7 guys pitching well, and pitching well, I mean, when they're stringing together 4, 5, 6 appearances without giving up a run. I think we've seen maybe streaks of 2 or 3 appearances, no runs, and that 4th one, they give up a run or 2 or 3. And for me, that's not consistent enough. So we got to get to that, consistency level of, a handful of appearances where they're spotless. And we need more than a handful of guys to do that to result in victories. So, I mean, it's a pretty simple formula. And I do think we have the talent to do that. Just so far this year in the 40 games, it's been too inconsistent amongst all those guys.
You mentioned last night that you thought maybe, and you said maybe, some of the guys were trying to be a little bit too fine. And I was wondering if that might be a Coors Field factor, but then I went and looked at the bullpen's ERA. It's actually better at Coors than it's been on the road. When you say fine, is that about not wanting to make a mistake, or is it not being aggressive enough, or does it vary from pitcher to pitcher?
Yeah, again, I did I do the same homework you do, our coaches do, our analysts do. I looked at the walk rate, whether we're walking more guys at home based on, where we play. And I found that, that hasn't been the case. I think with the exception of Almonte, I think Almonte's walked way more guys on the road than he has at home. He had 2 walks yesterday that came back to bite him. But, it's been a pretty even split of home road as far as the walks. I do think from, all the years here, I think there has been a natural tendency of pitchers to pitch a little fine. And I see that from the opponents as well. I think that's just the nature of the beast in altitude. And it's something that we guard against, that we try not to, have our pitchers fall into that trap. So, again, the messaging is, we need guys who throw strikes. And right now, we're one of the, in baseball, we're one of the teams that walks the most guys out of the bullpen. So that's got to stop. And again, Patrick, it could be, guys maybe being fine, maybe guys being too careful. But, we've stressed to these guys that you can't pitch like that. So hopefully you'll see moving forward in the coming weeks and months that, our walk rate decreases, or, the bullpen we'll see some changes.
And switching gears to the offensive side, you guys hit the ball very well, and for the most part in the homestand. Did you see not just results on the scoreboard and the box score, but swing wise from guys? Did you see good swings and good fundamental hitting during the homestand?
I did. For the most part, yes. I thought the quality of our bats were much better this homestand than, I think at any time during the season. Again, I thought our walk rate was up. I thought that our overall pitch selection on pitches that we swung at was much better. And I think here we saw the results of that. I think in most of the games, you saw pretty decent situational hitting. The game on Saturday night was an exception. And even yesterday, we had a couple chances, late in the game to capitalize, and we didn't. That was frustrating for the guys. But I think overall on the homestand, you saw, pretty good at bats. I thought, you saw Josh's week was good. I thought Hampson, had a pretty good week. I think Daza had a good week as far as, the quality of his at bats. Tapia, was sort of in and out. I think Trev had a tough week. Chuck missed some games there against the Reds. The catchers are still trying to find their way. But on balance, there was a lot of guys that, had good weeks in their approach and their performance.
Thank you.
Nick Groke.
Yeah, buddy. Speaking of the bullpen, do you have a clear diagnosis on Ben Bowden?
No, we left yesterday and Ben stayed back in Denver, and I haven't checked with Keith today yet on, what any of the scans showed, but, I'll follow up with that today, Nick, and hopefully have some information for you either tonight or tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Mark Stout.
Hey, buddy, Connor Joe mentioned something in passing about you pitching to him in San Diego in the offseason. Can you give us a few details on that?
Sure. I know that, he was hitting at a local high school here with an ex-major league hitting coach and who I know. And actually, he and a couple other fellows were hitting, and actually another fellow who's in Albuquerque with us, Winton Bernard, Connor Joe, and a couple other minor league players were hitting at West Hills High School. And I knew we were we were in contact with these guys about potential signing with the Rockies. I think we had already signed Connor. I'm not sure the timing, but so I guess I invited myself to come over and throw in my invitation was taken, with the hitting guys, with the hitting coach. And I went through to Connor and Winton, and, obviously liked what I saw from both guys, and you sort of passed that on to, our hitting coaches and our, baseball executives. And it was a great Sunday morning. Actually, we had some laughs, those guys took a lot of swings. It was a winter workout, a pretty common one in San Diego or in Southern California, and that type of the year is January. So it was great.
Good stuff. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Danielle, go ahead.
Hey, buddy. Was that the first day you had met Connor Joe in person?
Yes.
Do you remember kind of what your first impressions were of him? Not even his playing, but his personality too.
Well, I saw him get his first hit. It was against us when he was with the Giants. I'd heard his name in baseball circles in San Diego. He's from San Diego County. Went to Poway High School, so I knew the name. Then I saw that he got a scholarship over to USD. Saw that he got drafted by the Pirates, so I knew the name. And I just did a little statistical homework on Connor, as I do a lot of players, from San Diego. Again, like I said, saw him play his first appearances with the Giants. They were against the Rockies, and but I hadn't met him personally until that Sunday morning when we got together in the wintertime. But I could tell that he was had some energy. He's well spoken. He was a bright kid. He had a nice way about him. When we first met. So it was a very good first impression for sure.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to Owen Perkins and finish up with Kevin. Owen, go ahead.
Hey, buddy, I got a few quick ones for you. First of all, you mentioned Josh having a good week, and he's given you something to talk about virtually every night the past week. But now that he won the Player of the Week, looking at the week in totality and starting with sitting out a couple games, can you just put that week in perspective for him and how far he traveled?
Well, again, I think that with Josh, we've seen him be a little streaky. We saw it, last year. When he really got into the lineup after we flip-flopped him and Murph. Through spring training, which is a little bit of a different animal. I thought he swung the bat pretty well. And then when the season started, you could tell right off the bat, that this season was different because, here he was, he made the opening day roster, and, he was sort of living and dying with every at bat, and eventually it started to affect his performance, and really it started to affect his at bats. And it started to affect his personality a little bit. He wasn't being himself. So, I think, I talked to him, probably, so many of his friends and family and, a couple of coaches, and finally realized that, he was putting the weight of the world on his shoulders, just, from at bat to at bat. Basically the message probably from everybody was to, lighten up. And somehow I think he found that messaging, and I think, 2 or 3 days off put him in a good place. And then that, that second game of the doubleheader against Snell, hit that home run, and you could tell that, man, he just exhaled, right? And then he got the big hit later, to win the game. And then, the weekend during the Reds, he just continued with some big hits and big spots. And the at bats were, they were calmer. They were poised. You could tell that his heartbeat was much better. His body language, he looked comfortable. Where I think in previous at bats, the previous probably 20 at bats, 30 at bats, it was you could tell that he was pressing. We've seen that before from players. From our experience, and he just needed to lighten up. And I think we've seen the results of a guy who exhaled basically and became much more relaxed.
And on a different topic, you just finished 7 games in 6 days. It's kind of, you've had to use the whole roster, the full bullpen and all your bench. I don't know how often you've played with a 3-man bench, but what's that balance been like, and what would you like to see down the road?
It's hard. I mean, obviously it helps. You can maneuver the bullpen better, but usually what we found is that we have that many pitchers because 2 or 3 guys are unavailable on a given night, which we have tonight, right? There's some guys who are not going to pitch tonight just based on their frequency of the last 5-6 days and the amount of pitches they've thrown and the amount of days they've thrown within that period. So it really hampers you, right? It didn't hamper us much yesterday, right? When Sensatella went 7, didn't hamper us much when Chi went 7. We'll see how it goes tonight, but with Charlie with the growing, he's sort of limited to pinch hit. We got Trejo really as our truly only position player, besides the catcher who you'd like to stay away from the best you can to keep just in case something happens to your catcher. And Dom has a little bit of a leg issue right now. He's playable and playing, but we have to keep an eye on Dom. So it makes it tough to really maneuver through a game like you normally would with either a 4-man bench or 5-man bench. So, but Gomber and Marquez will be spiked up tonight in case they need to pinch hit, and if something crazy happens late in the game where we go through some players. You saw it the other night that, these guys might have to play in the field. Cross your fingers that doesn't happen, but, we've seen it all before. We didn't think we were going to go 12 innings the other night, what we did. And that's, that's part of when the game starts, you don't know what's going to happen.
And then lastly, with any update on the timeline for Rogers, and does the success of some of the young guys on the team, less experienced guys on the team, affect your sense of urgency with Rogers and Crone coming back?
Well, a little bit. I think, like I said, I think Crone will come back as soon as our bullpen straightens out, and that could be as early as tomorrow if John pitches a solid game. And with Brendan, I think we just got to build up his stamina, to be ready to play and to play 9 innings and obviously give him enough at bats to feel comfortable, as far as his timing and being ready to gain speed to play. He hasn't played since March. So it's been, 2 months. So he has to play to get in game shape. I think we'll bring Brendan when we think he's ready, regardless of what's going on with the other fellas. And with CJ, he's ready, he's healthy, feels great, and we'll pop him in as soon as, again, our bullpen straightens out.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Kevin, your last Kevin.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, Kevin.
Oh, no worries. One quick one for you. I've been noticing Scott Oberg's been posting a lot on social media, like he's around the club. Can you just kind of give us an update on how he's doing? And
Yeah, he's actually, he played catch the other day out in the outfield. It was good to see him play catch. But he wants to be around the team. He's there in the afternoon. He's interacting with the guys. I see him watching video with the coaches and some guys out in the bullpen, some of our pitchers. He's obviously he's in the training room with Keith, and he's doing a ton of homework and education on his own particular situation. I still think he's potentially holding out hope that he can pitch again. We'll see how that goes. But that's a little tricky based on what he's been through now, I think 3 times. This is, obviously career threatening stuff and, potentially life stuff. But it's good to see him around, right? He's still, very active with our players. He's very active in heading up our Players Association. He's our representative. So as far as, stuff that has to go through the union and therefore through the league offices, he's very involved in that, which I think he enjoys. And I think the guys like him in that role. They'd love him as a pitcher, right, to help our bullpen. But right now he's a part of the team serving a lot of different purposes for us.
Thanks, buddy.